Hello and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk a bit about the placement groups. So, placement groups are basically of three types. It's about how you place your instances in your data center. So, create placement group. So, for example, I can choose any placement group. So, placement group basically means, do you want to place your instances near to each other? Do you want to place your instances in different racks? Or do you want to place the instances in different zones or different areas within the data center? The objective of this is just to protect your instances in case of any misadventure. Uh, but again, it has got its advantages and disadvantages. The closer they are, maybe they are better when they will work. The further they are, they may reduce a bit of an efficiency, but you will not come to know about it. So I can give the name of a placement group as my PG1, and I can choose it as cluster. So cluster will basically, all of them will be together in the same area. And if you want, I can add a tag and I can call it as name, and I can give it as PG1 underscore cluster, and I create the group. I'll create another placement group and I'll call it as my PG2, and I'm going to use a spread rack. Do you want to keep it on different racks or same racks, or do you want to keep it on different hosts if you want? And I'll give it a name as PG2 underscore spread. So they will be spread on different racks if needed. And lastly, it is my PG3, and I'm going to give a partition. So it can be partitions. The maximum can be 7 partitions that you can create in the placement group. So I'll go with 2, and I'm going to attach a tag to it, and I'm going to call it name, and I'm going to say PG3 underscore partition. Here I go, and here it is. So these are my 3 placement groups. So one of them is cluster, spread, and partition. Just to give you a quick overview of it, you can always go back and refer to AWS partition groups for more information about placement groups. Yeah, AWS placement groups, so you can read more about it and how they can be shared. So here it is, and you can learn more about it. So AWS EC2 placement groups. So cluster are basically, it says that it's a logical grouping of instances in the single AZ, and they can span paired VPC. Then partition placement group are likely reduce the likelihood of correlated hardware failures. So they can be divided into logical segments, which are known as partitions, and they can be having their own set of racks, as I showed you. So here it is. If you have a look, they are instances are in the same zone. Here they can be on the same zone, but they can be on different partitions. And spread placement zone can be in to have a small number of critical instances that keep separate from each other. So this basically avoids any kind of failure between the hardware or mixing of instances, of launching of instances over a time. So you can have a separate them by spread, and you can also create on basis of host. So host is basically for AWS outposts only. So you can read more information about this, how you can do it on AWS documentation on EC2. Now to use this, we basically go to instances. I'll quickly show you how you use them. Launch instances, and I'm going to give it my name as MyWin2. I'll use AWS Linux. Now here it is. So if I come here, advanced details, and you can select what kind of placement group you have. here it is. So you can select it from here. Do you want them to be together, this instance, or do you want them to be spread? If you want to create, so for example, if you want to create number of instances, maybe 5, how do you want them? Do you want them to be close together, or do you want them to be partitioned, or do you want them to be spread around? So that's all it is. And you can select it, how they will come. So you will not come to know most of these things, but yes, AWS will ensure that. So if I select placement group and I click on launch instance, so for example, if I just use this VPC and by default, and I'm going to give a name which is Lenky, it is going to be a free EC tier eligible, and I'm going to launch. So because it's in partition, you will not come to know much about it, but distinctly they will be in a separate hardware, and you can see they are all in US East 1A, and they are all of type T3 T2 micro, which are free, and all of them are going to run on the, or basically will be placed on a different racks basically, or maybe positioned on the same rack. So it's basically AWS manages this at their background. So they will automatically link it that how close or how far you want your instances from each other, and you can segregate them on the basis of their placement groups. That's all from this video.